All right, part 3, shootout with the police. This is part 3, shootout with the police. If you follow the story so far, you know where we at now. I'm getting out of the interrogation room. I was with the DA, the chief of police, the detectives. All that was in one room, of course, with my father. They just got me about the cell, asked me all these questions, and they released me. Once again, under the stipulation that if they ever found out anything about my story was untrue, they were going to come get me. So they released me. At this point, I really can't believe that I'm out of jail. Because what you guys got to realize, that all of this happened in such a short window of time that I have not processed any of this that has happened. It went from one day coming home from Marine Corps boot camp to overnight thinking that I was, one, going to die, two, I wasn't going to get out of jail for the rest of my life. So literally, when they release me, I have to go home and pack because I'm getting ready to go to Marine Corps boot camp. Now, my family's happy, hugging me and everything, but they don't get time to celebrate the fact that, hey, I'm not going to jail for my whole life. You know, people are wanting to hear the story and want to know what's going on, but I don't have time to really tell anybody what really happened. So I get packed. At this point, I'm getting ready to go to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, like I said, to my training school for Marines. So I go to my training school for Marines. I'm so young at the time that, like I said, I don't even really process it. I don't really even think about it. I just like suppress the memory. So I go through my training school instantly when I get to my unit. Instantly, once I leave training school, which was a couple of weeks long, I go to my unit. I check in with my unit. A couple of days after checking in with my unit in the Marines, they say, we're getting ready to be deployed. Now, when I got recruited to Marines, most of y'all don't understand the story. We were at war in Iraq. We were heavily going overseas, but I took comfort in the fact that they told me that my unit had just came home. And if y'all know anything about the Marine Corps and how they deploy, usually when your unit has just came home, they don't send them right back out. But under this circumstance, they were getting ready to ship back out. So, like I said, all of this stuff is happening at one time. I've been shot at, thought I was going to die. Been in the jail, thought I wasn't going to see the light of day. Then I go to training school. Then I check into my unit. Then boom, I'm getting ready to go overseas as a young man. So I'm trying to get all of my thoughts together. So we getting ready to go overseas. And before you get ready to go overseas, they send you to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. So you have to get ready to go overseas. They're trying to program you and brief you on your missions and what you're going to get ready to do. So you do about 30 days at Camp Lejeune before you ship out. So I remember being at Camp Lejeune, and one day we were getting ready because they let you go on liberty, what's called liberty. You know, you got to do your duty, but then they let you go on liberty, which is like anywhere from 28, anywhere from 24, 48 to 72 hours, depending on what's going on. So we get ready to go to the store, me and 3 or 4 other guys. So we get into a car, a vehicle, to get ready to go to the store. And all I remember is, now this is a story about how I had my first panic and anxiety attack. We get into the car, and I'm in the same position as I was the night that I got shot at. So as we get ready to go to the store, everything was fine. We go in the store, we buy a little whoop-de-whoops, get back into the car, and as we get back in the car to drive off, I all of a sudden feel like I can't breathe. I've never felt this before a day in my life. I've never felt this rush like I couldn't breathe. It was so alarming that I felt like I was having a heart attack. So I told the guys, y'all got to slow down, y'all got to slow down. They thought I was crazy. When they slowed down, I said, no, wait, stop, let me get out. I felt like I couldn't breathe. So I got out of the car, breathed slowly, and I caught my composure. See, at that time, what was happening was I was having my first panic and anxiety attack. And so I really didn't know what was going on. And the guys were laughing and they were like, man, what's wrong with you? You all right? They was asking me all kind of questions, but I really don't know what's going on. So I just chalk it up to, man, I don't know what it is. Maybe I ate something bad or something like that. So we continue to go on. Now I'm trying to tell y'all how important mental health is. This is part 3 of Shootout with the Cops. So we get ready to go on whoop-de-whoop. I'm going to fast forward, getting out of the Marines. We'll go into some more stories about that later. But I get out of the Marines, right? And when I got out of the Marines, that was the only panic attack I had ever had. But when I got out of the Marines, anybody who knows my story, I began to be heavy on marijuana, smoking weed. And one day I was smoking weed and I had another panic attack. And it was crazy because at this point I was smoking weed real heavy to deal with stress, to deal with the goings on of the day. So I started having reoccurring panic attacks. And I'm going to tell y'all how bad they was. Every time it would feel like I was about to die. So I never knew what was going on. I didn't even talk to a doctor about it. But I'm going to tell y'all how good God is. One day, God told me it was because of PTSD. And it wasn't PTSD strictly from the Marines. It was post-traumatic stress disorder from unprocessed feelings and emotions from that night. Because I had never dealt with what happened that night, anytime I was in a situation that felt like that, I felt like I couldn't breathe. And so this is why we're in an age where we expose mental health a lot now. But this is why mental health is really important. And as black people, especially as black people, we don't believe in therapy. We don't believe in talking about our issues. You just get through it. And so that's where I was. I'm from North Memphis. I've seen a lot of things growing up. I've been through a lot. So I never really talked to nobody about how I felt. You're expected, especially as a black male, to just suck it up and keep going. So when I found out what it was, the panic attacks, it actually helped me by talking about what happened. And I didn't know this at first. So I had to tell people when I went into certain situations, like I got claustrophobic all of a sudden. I didn't like riding in elevators, tight spaces. I couldn't go into movie theaters where I didn't know who was in there. There were situations that I couldn't go into because it would throw me back into that zone where I was that night. The first time I ever got depressed, I only been depressed one time in my life. I used to be one of those people who would tell people, get over it. Oh, it ain't nothing. They would say, I'm depressed. I'm like, how do you get depressed? And I would say, just get over it. See, one thing we don't understand about people who get depressed, if they could just get over it, they would. If it was that simple, they would. But the first time I ever got depressed was about 2015. And it was I can't even describe how I felt. It was a point where I hadn't went outside in 2 weeks. I didn't realize that I didn't have the spunk or the energy or the zest for life. It just happened gradually where it was like, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm laying around all day in the dark. If the TV was on, I wasn't even really watching it. I didn't want to be around nobody, but the only time I could even get away from these dark thoughts was to be around people. Yet I didn't want to be around nobody. God delivered me from that. Y'all, God delivered me from that. And a lot of people go to counseling and stuff like that, which to each his own. But a relationship with God is so important. Because I remember going to the doctors. And when I finally started telling the doctors about it, they want to put you on Zoloft. They want to put you on so many medicines. And I've never been a medicine taker. Like, I can't do that. I don't want to be walking around like a zombie, not in my own control, functioning slowly. So I began to pray more and talk to God more. And I wasn't talking to a human being about my problems. I dealt with God. I started talking to God about how I was feeling. See, it wasn't fake to me anymore. It wasn't a game to me anymore. Mental health became real. Depression became real. And when you don't take somebody serious who's going through these things, it hurts. And trust me, if they come out of it, they remember people who don't take them serious. That's why you shouldn't take it lightly if a person's telling you they're dealing with something internally. You shouldn't take it lightly. Now, does that mean that you can always help that person? No. But you may know somewhere where they can get help. Or you may provide company for that person. Because like I told you, when I was going through it, I did not want to be around nobody. But it was only when I was around people that my mind could space out and get away from that dark space. Now, as soon as I got back to the house, I was right back in it. So my relationship with God and being able to express myself to a God that was always with me was able to snap me up out of it. Starting to get deeper in the word. Starting to really read it for what it was. And that may help somebody out there. It may not. But I'm telling you, whatever you're going through and you feel like nobody will understand, talking helps. I didn't want to talk to a human being. My situation was different. I did not want to talk to another human being. I wanted to talk to a God who's known me since before birth. I wanted to talk to a God that wasn't going to judge me. I wanted to talk to a God that was going to love me through it. You understand what I'm saying? And he began to tell me in Jeremiah 29:5-6 that I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. I know the thoughts and the plans that I had for you. Thoughts of good things. Yeah, come on now. I started to read those scriptures and they meant something to me. So this is part 3, man, of Shootout with the Police. Didn't know how I was affected by this post-traumatic stress disorder. Not dealing with stress properly. And years later, it manifesting itself. You know what I'm saying? We don't understand how things affect us. And this is a message to the youngsters out there. The reason I chose this story first for my testimony, and my voice is still raspy. I'm going to have to learn how to rest it. But we are so desensitized in this day and time through video games, through wars in Iraq, through mass shootings, through videos, rappers, and music. We think life is a game. We think it's cool to be in some gangster stuff. We think it's cool to be in a shootout. Some of y'all want to earn y'all stripes that way. But let me tell you, if it don't change your life by killing you, you're going to have to live with that torment for the rest of your life. Even if you're not the one who gets shot, if you kill a man, it changes your life. It changes your life. Unless you are a person with no God and no conscience. That's what I'm saying. People say no conscience, but it's really having no God. You understand what I'm saying? When you don't have a God, you can kill a man, pow, and don't even think twice about it. Don't lose no sleep. But most of us aren't built like that. We aren't. We come from good families, good raisins. This ain't like the 90s. We went through something where daddies went in the homes, but where I'm from and where I see people at now, it's not like that no more. You got good mamas, you got good daddies, you know your mama, you know your daddy, you know your granny. Y'all know y'all got some good upbringings. So you know what God you serve. So to take a man's life is not an easy thing. I know people who are dealing with having to take a man's life in self-defense. It's rough to do that. Even though your body tells you that this is instinctual. And yes, you might have to take a man's life in self-defense. I pray every day that I don't have to take a man's life in self-defense either. Because when I was in the Marines, I did a lot of things that I still think about to this day. So if I can tell a youngster anything out there now, take a step back and think before you make a decision that while you're young, it may not seem that big. But trust me, stress manifests itself in different ways. And you don't want that smoke in your life. That's part 3. We will begin a new story later on. I need shares and likes, comments, you know, all that good stuff. Y'all be blessed.